Right now, the world is watching one of the most consequential geopolitical standoffs in decades: the United States and Iran. Two powers, one narrow strip of water that controls a fifth of the world's oil supply. In the last several hours, something shifted. Iran announced that the Strait of Hormuz is open. 3 words, billions of dollars in reaction within minutes. Markets surged, oil prices dropped, and the world exhaled just slightly. But here's what you need to understand tonight. This is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of the next chapter. Tonight, we break down exactly what happened, what it means for you, and what comes next, because the stakes couldn't be higher. To understand where we are right now, we need to go back just a few weeks. Tensions between Washington and Tehran had been escalating for months, but what pushed things to the edge was control over one of the most strategically vital shipping lanes on the planet, the Strait of Hormuz. Nearly a fifth of global oil supply passes through this passage every single day. Disrupting it doesn't just hurt Iran or the United States, it hits every economy that runs on oil, which is virtually every economy on Earth. The United States, after weeks of diplomatic pressure that produced no results, made a bold and calculated move: a naval blockade. American warships moved into position, stopping and redirecting vessels carrying Iranian oil. The economic lifeline of the Iranian government cut. This wasn't symbolic. Reports confirmed multiple vessels were turned back. Iran's oil exports, the financial oxygen that keeps its government functioning, were being systematically choked off. And crucially, Washington wasn't alone. Gulf state allies, nations that share a very direct interest in regional stability, aligned more closely with the United States than at perhaps any point in recent memory. That coalition represented military, economic, and diplomatic pressure from multiple directions simultaneously. Iran found itself in a vice, and the pressure was tightening. Now let's talk about what happened in financial markets the moment Iran made its announcement, because the reaction was immediate and it was dramatic. The Dow Jones Industrial Average surged nearly 700 points. Oil prices dropped sharply. At one point, crude fell more than 10% in under an hour, 10% in under 60 minutes. That is an extraordinary move that tells you just how much geopolitical fear had been priced into the market. Investors, from pension fund managers in New York to traders in London and Tokyo, had been operating under a worst-case scenario, a prolonged conflict that keeps the strait closed, sends oil spiking, triggers inflation, and destabilizes supply chains that are still recovering from years of disruption. That scenario, at least for today, appears to have been taken off the table. But here's the word you'll hear from every serious financial analyst right now: cautious. Cautious optimism. Not relief, not celebration, caution. Because markets have seen this before. A headline drops, prices react, and then the situation deteriorates. The volatility we saw today is a reminder of how fragile this moment actually is. Now here's a development that a lot of people are missing, and it may actually be the more important story. A 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon has been announced. On the surface, that sounds separate. Different country, different conflict, different players. But it is not separate. Iran's influence in this region runs deep, and nowhere is that more evident than through Hezbollah, the powerful militant organization based in Lebanon that operates with Iranian backing, Iranian weapons, and Iranian strategic guidance. When Lebanon goes quiet, even temporarily, it signals something critical. There are conversations happening behind closed doors. Diplomatic channels that the public doesn't see. Agreements being tested, not announced. Think of the Lebanon ceasefire as a pressure valve, and the Strait of Hormuz statement as another. Together, they paint a picture of a region that for the moment is choosing de-escalation over confrontation. The question every expert is asking tonight is, who blinked? And what did they get in return? I want to be direct with you. Because in a story like this, it's easy for optimism to outrun reality. So let me walk you through the 3 critical questions that nobody has answered yet, and that will define whether this is a turning point or a temporary pause. First, what happens to Iran's nuclear program? There has been no confirmed agreement. no verified rollback. No credible commitment from Tehran to halt uranium enrichment or open its facilities to increased inspection. None. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been the defining red line for the United States and its allies for over 2 decades, and right now that program continues. Until there is verifiable, documented evidence of a real change, this issue remains fully unresolved. Second, will the US naval blockade be lifted? Washington has not announced a withdrawal. American naval assets remain in position. That means the economic vice around Iran is still engaged, and as long as that pressure exists, the incentive for Iran to escalate or to test the limits of any agreement remains very much alive. A blockade is a powerful tool, but it is also a pressure cooker. The longer it runs without a clear off-ramp, the more volatile the situation becomes. Third, can this spiral back into open conflict? The honest answer is yes, it absolutely can. The missile launches and drone strikes we saw earlier appear to have paused, for now, but the region remains a powder keg. One miscalculation, one incident at sea, one proxy group acting out of coordination with its patrons. Any of these could restart the cycle, and potentially with greater intensity than before. There's a dimension to this story that gets lost when we're focused on warships and market tickers, the people of Iran. Behind every data point in this crisis are millions of ordinary citizens who did not choose this confrontation and who are bearing the heaviest burden of it. Sanctions have driven inflation to punishing levels. The domestic economy is under extraordinary strain. Basic goods are harder to access. Young Iranians who grew up dreaming of integration with the global economy are instead watching their country become increasingly isolated. And the pressure is showing internally. There are increasing reports of public dissatisfaction, demands for change that go beyond economics and touch something deeper, the question of what kind of future the Iranian people want for their country. History has shown us that internal pressure can be the most powerful force in geopolitics. Governments negotiate, people endure, and eventually the two trajectories must converge. So, where do we go from here? In the short term, the signals are positive, the strait is open, a ceasefire is in place, markets have stabilized. The immediate risk of a broader regional war has, at least temporarily, receded. But the next 72 hours are going to be critical. If formal diplomatic talks begin, and if those talks show even early signs of progress, this moment could mark the beginning of a larger resolution. One that addresses not just the immediate military flashpoints, but the deeper structural issues, sanctions relief, nuclear verification, regional security guarantees. That would be a genuinely historic development. But if trust breaks down, if either side interprets a gesture as weakness, if a proxy group fires the wrong weapon at the wrong moment, the situation could re-escalate, potentially faster and more aggressively than what we've already seen. We are watching a moment of high-stakes diplomacy in real time, and the margin for error is razor thin. Here is what I want you to take away from this report tonight. The headlines will tell you there is progress. And there is. We should acknowledge that. But progress in diplomacy is not the same as peace. A pause is not a resolution, and an open strait is not an agreement. What we are witnessing right now is a test of whether two adversarial governments under immense domestic and international pressure can find a path forward that doesn't end in catastrophe. The world is watching, the stakes are real, and the outcome is still far from certain. We will continue to monitor every development in this story and bring you the most accurate, most comprehensive coverage as it unfolds. I'm Kaneem. Stay informed, stay engaged. Good night.